Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over is my updated prediction for the 2020 presidential election. So since my previous election prediction, a lot has happened. The Democratic National Convention occurred, the Republican National Convention occurred, some troubling statements about have come up from Fox News and The Atlantic about Trump's opinion on the military, which has been disputed and confirmed by many different sources. So take of that news as you will. However, it definitely has made some more electoral implications. In recent polling, Biden still has a pretty strong lead. I would probably assume maybe about a 6 or 7 nationwide lead as of this moment. Definitely not his strongest point, but not his weakest either. But looking at polling across the country, it definitely is a pretty weird sight. Donald Trump is doing better with minorities, especially Hispanic voters. However, Joe Biden's doing better among rural and suburban white voters. So, when that comes to the electoral landscape, things are going to be pretty typical as we would assume them to be. I'm actually going to move New Mexico into the safe margin. I think that Joe Biden is probably going to, even though Donald Trump is going to really focus on trying to win this state, I don't think he's going to win it. In addition to that, there are a bunch of conventionally Democratic states that are also going to go to Joe Biden. There's no surprises really here. And yeah, for the safe Republican states, there are a lot of safe Republican states. However, there definitely is not as many as there should be. Trump is not really doing super great in a lot of these states that he carried back in 2016 by insurmountable margins. So he definitely needs to make up that. When it comes to the state of Montana and Kansas, Missouri, Indiana, South Carolina, and Mississippi, they are all going to be characterized as likely Republican states. Personally, I think that they are between 10 to 15 point margins. In the cases of Mississippi and South Carolina, I can see them becoming, 5 to 10 points, especially if Joe Biden racks up black turnout. However, it is definitely going to be difficult for Joe Biden to try to win these states. And if anything, I can see Trump actually improving his margins by election day in many of these states. When it comes to the state of Utah, it is pretty difficult. Evan McMullin, the independent candidate back in 2016, who carried over 20% of the vote, which is pretty significant. He almost won the state of Utah. Did better than Hillary Clinton. He actually endorsed Joe Biden, which is a huge blow to President Trump. President Trump is not very well liked in the state of Utah. I believe that he currently has a negative approval rating in the state of Utah, a state that, was the strongest state for Mitt Romney back in 2012. He won with, I think it was 72% of the vote. That is absolutely insane. And, it is going to be really difficult for Biden to try to narrow up the margins in such a safe Republican state. I think there are going to be a lot of Republicans that are just going to suck it up and vote for Trump. However, I'm just going to leave it as a likely characterization. This is not necessarily thinking that, Utah is going to be like a likely state, between 5 and 15 points. However, as of this moment, we haven't really had any clear, concrete polls, and it is going to be very difficult to make a projection on the state of Utah as of this moment. I also think that Nebraska's first district is going to be likely, but very narrowly. I think that it is on the cusp of the 15% cutoff. It did go to a likely margin to Barack Obama back in 2008, and I think that this election is very similar to the 2008 election. The current incumbent president or incumbent presidency has a economic recession. The stock market is down. Unemployment is still pretty, high, even though job rates have definitely been coming back. It is very difficult to try and make a case for the incumbent as of this moment. So now looking at our likely states, the state of Nevada and Colorado are likely states as of this point. I generally don't see Colorado ever getting under, a likely margin, even if Trump were to win. Nevada definitely could. I think that the two states that Hillary Clinton won back in 2016, Nevada Minnesota, oh, yeah, not two, and New Hampshire. Those are all of the 3 states that Hillary Clinton won that Trump could definitely win. Oh, I forgot about the state of Alaska. That is likely as well. Again, very difficult state, kind of like Utah. Hard to actually predict. But yeah, looking at other likely margin states, state of Virginia, 10 to 15 points is pretty obvious that not Trump, Joe Biden's going to win in that state. The state of Minnesota, I think it is still going to be a likely margin, but again, kind of on the cusp. I think that Donald Trump is really going to try to make a play for the state, just like the state of New Mexico. It was really close back in 2018, and not 18, 2016, and even in the 2018 midterms, where it was a supposed Democratic wave year, where the Democrats took back the House. Minnesota definitely did not necessarily show a strong showing for the Democrats. I mean, they had, I think it was 2 Republican flips and 2 Democratic flips. It was the only state in the entire country to have Republican pickups, and there was 2 of them. So the fact is, the state of Minnesota, it is changing. It definitely is narrowing up, and it could go to President Trump. But as of this moment, I can see it going to Joe Biden by about maybe 5 to 7 points as of today. Looking into our other states, I forgot about Maine's first. That's going to be safe. Maine's 2nd congressional district. I'm going to leave that as a lean state or a lean district for Donald Trump as of this moment. I don't think that Biden, as of this point, is going to flip it. Even though Joe Biden is outperforming with non-college educated white voters, the ones that Trump definitely was able to pull over into his column back in 2016. Some of the pollsters, that's kind of where they got wrong in their polling methods. I think they definitely, Joe Biden's going to give Trump a run for his money in this district, but it's going to be difficult for him to do so. And with that, I think Maine at large is going to be a likely characterization. Looking at the Rust Belt, I think the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are all going to be lean states. So these are between 2 and 5 points. I definitely think that it is going to be hard for Trump to, try and win back these states, especially after, their economies, things that Trump actually promised them, especially in the auto industry in these states that he promised that he was going to give them. He definitely still has time to prove himself, but time is running out, and it's really going to be difficult for him to try and make his case to these voters in these states. And, with Wisconsin, it was the state that went to President Trump by the most back in 2016. It is currently polling the best for Joe Biden out of all of these states. You can say that, it also was similar back in 2016. But, even adjusting it to, the swing in polls versus the actual result back in 2016, Wisconsin and the rest of the West are likely to stay blue or, flip blue. The state of New Hampshire, it is pretty difficult to, again, predict this state, but I think it's going to go narrowly to Joe Biden in a lean margin. I think it is on the cusp of, the 5%, 4 or 5% for Joe Biden. One of the closest races back in 2016. Trump definitely, I think, has more of an appeal here than Joe Biden. However, its Democratic identity has definitely been getting more and more blue as the years have progressed on. And, I have a feeling that, especially with the Democratic representatives there winning by, or likely going to win by likely margins, I think it's really hard to make the case that Trump is going to win as of this moment. Now, let's go into some other states. The state of Texas, I think, is a lean state. Very difficult for Joe Biden to win. Recent polls have, again, showed it super close. Ever since, I think it was May, Biden and Trump have been neck and neck in polls in the state of Texas. Outperforming Beto O'Rourke in many cases, despite the fact that Joe Biden isn't even from Texas. But Joe Biden's ability to outperform in the Southwest has definitely been proven, and he's really racking up the numbers here and in Arizona. When it comes to the state of Iowa, I think that's going to be a lean state as well. it is going to be hard for Joe Biden to actually take back this state. It went to Trump by over 9 points back in 2016. It did elect a Republican governor back in 2018 during the midterms, despite the fact that they elected 3 out of the 4 representatives as Democrats. And they likely are going to retain that in 2020 in the House elections. But, it is going to be very difficult for Joe Biden to try and take those cross-splitting voters back. Next up, I'm going to characterize the state of Arizona. So the state of Arizona, I think, is going to be lean as of this point. But kind of like the state of New Hampshire, I think it's between, that cusp of 4 to 5 points. Arizona definitely has been showing huge Democratic tendencies in the past few, election cycles. It trended more blue back in 2016 than it did in 2012, which you cannot say about many states. Back in 2018, elected the first ever Democratic senator in many, many years, and is likely going to elect another Democratic senator. Mark Kelly, the Democratic Senate candidate there, is outperforming the incumbent Republican Senator Martha McSally, who actually lost back in 2018 by double digits, and in some points, almost 20 points. I don't think that's actually how it's going to be on Election Day. I think those polls overestimate, Democratic-leaning independents, but it is going to be hard for Trump to win the state, especially with the disdain that Arizonans have for President Trump. However, Trump is outperforming in Latinos, and he could definitely, try and keep those numbers up in order for him to win. Next up, I'm going to characterize Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District. I think that Joe Biden has a decent appeal here. Cara Eastman also probably, also going to win her House race with Joe Biden. This state, well, not this state, this district was won by Barack Obama back in 2008, and it was actually pretty close in 2016. It only went to President Trump by a little over 2 points, and that is pretty significant. This district went to President Trump the same amount that, Minnesota went for Hillary Clinton. And, with Minnesota, moving to a likely characterization, I think it's pretty, it's pretty easy to see on how I would characterize that as a lean state or a lean district. Next up are going to be the lean Republican states. I think as of this moment, the states of Ohio and Georgia are going to be lean Republican states. These states, the state of Ohio, I think is going to actually retain in Trump's column. If anything, I would move it further into the lean characterization for President Trump. I think that Trump has a decent appeal here. However, Joe Biden, I think he also has a good appeal here. Coming from a nearby state like Delaware, just a couple states away, and it's from Scranton, Pennsylvania, I think that he definitely could appeal to those auto workers, to, the working class average Joe. In the state of Ohio, in the same way that Barack Obama was able to do in 2008 and 2012. Ohio has been trending more red, but even despite that, Barack Obama was able to win the state of Ohio. In the state of Georgia, again, trending more and more blue, even in 2016. Very close gubernatorial race back in 2018. Very neck and neck in polling, just like the state of Texas. However, I do see it super close, but I can pretty easily see Trump winning. Next up are going to be the tilt Democratic states, and the states of Florida and North Carolina. Now, I'm just going to go over North Carolina first. I would actually put it as a complete toss-up as of this moment. Personally, I think that it is very difficult to try and make a prediction out of the state of North Carolina. They already have started early voting, and I think that that's definitely going to complicate things when it comes to, in case there was any bombshell reporting, October surprises, September surprises. If anything were to actually tank a campaign, it would have to come out now, and I don't really see that happening. The presidential debates haven't even occurred yet, and that's normally when people tend to make up their minds, tend to, understand the policies of each candidate, and it's going to be very difficult for Joe Biden and President Trump to make their cases. However, I am going to give the edge to Joe Biden, just generally based on the fact that Joe Biden's been able to keep the suburban voters in a strong margin so far, and I also think that in addition to that Cal Cunningham, the Senate candidate, has been, winning by pretty decent margins. The gubernatorial race, Roy Cooper, the incumbent governor, he won back in 2016, and he's been very popular, especially throughout the COVID pandemic, and he has been leading by double digits. So I can easily see him winning there. The state of Florida, I think Joe Biden has pretty good appeal here. I think Trump will improve on his Latino performance here. I think he will improve his Hispanic numbers, especially with Cubans. But Joe Biden, I think, is going to flip enough suburban and white voters in order for it to flip back to the Democratic column. So this is my overall prediction. It did run a little long, but I just tried to make it as, easy to explain as I possibly could. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave comments down in the please leave suggestions down in the comments below. Sorry, and thank you.